Hi, my name's Mark, one of the pastors here at Trillium. I got an apple pie from the church. We make apple pies here to do some fundraising for all the infrastructure changes we've done to the building. And we got a pie about a month ago, and it's a beautiful pie, but it got baked up. But I didn't have a piece at the time it was baked, and it got shaved down pretty fast to one piece. It was put in the fridge. And everybody in the family knew it was my piece of pie. Everybody else had one or two pieces, but I hadn't had one. And then I went to work the next day, and I'm driving home at 9 o'clock that night, thinking about what I'll do when I get home, when all of a sudden I remember the pie and how it's waiting for me and how I'm gonna go through into the house and put the kettle on and have a nice piece of pie at the end of the evening. And when I get home, I rush in, take out my jacket, put the kettle on, open the fridge door up and look in, and there's no pie. It's not there. It's gone. And I'm sitting there like in disbelief. I go through the 5 stages of grief that Kubler-Ross wrote about many years ago. Starts off with denial. It's got to be here. It's got to be here. I'm looking through the fridge. It's got to be here. And then I get angry. Anger is the next stage. And I get angry. Somebody's eating my piece of pie. And then the next stage is barter. I started bartering with God. Well, maybe somebody put it somewhere else. Maybe it's on the kitchen countertop or something. And I'm looking around, but it's not there. And then I go to depression, no pie. And a couple of days later, I come to acceptance, right? I'm not going to have the pie after all. And this notion of betrayal, I was betrayed. Treachery occurred in my family because someone ate my piece of pie. We're looking at the story of Judas betraying Jesus, and betrayal is such a part of life. And little things like apple pie in the fridge, and sometimes some really big things in families, between spouses, cheating and deception goes on, treachery and betrayal happens. And it's just a part of life, and we're all caught up in it. I'd mentioned to you a few weeks ago about how about Jesus had his own memorial service at the Last Supper. The Last Supper is a memorial service for himself. That's why he says, do this in remembrance of me. And it's in a sense, that service is something that happens, a funeral service for him, even though he's technically still alive. And what it means is that he's a dead man. He already is a dead man. And when he goes to Gethsemane, which is last week's service topic, in Gethsemane, he goes through the 5 stages of grief over his own death. It's a very strange thing. He's mourning his own death, and he starts off with denial. God, this doesn't have to happen, does it really? And then he's anger because the disciples will keep falling asleep on him. And then he's bartering with God. Take this cup from me if it's possible, but not let me drink it. There's got to be another way out of this, God. And then he goes into an anguish state, maybe a kind of depression, and finally comes to a place of acceptance. Not my will be done, but your will be done. And Jesus is radically transformed by the memorial service and his own journey in prayer through the 5 stages, so that when Judas comes to him and betrays him, he's not the same guy anymore. See, he's already dead, and he knows he's dead. Judas still sees him as a body, puts his arms around him, gives him a kiss as a sign of betrayal to the ruffians that have come with him, but Jesus is already dead, and it doesn't seem to touch him. In fact, he makes no reference to Judas about the betrayal. No rant, no recrimination, no anger, nothing. He just lets it go. And I think it's because when you're dead, what does betrayal mean after all? Like, for instance, if you're dead and someone betrays you, well, how can they betray a dead person? If someone steals money from you and you're dead, does it matter? Does it matter if someone cuts you off in the traffic if you're dead? Does it matter if, your spouse cheats on you if you're dead? No, none of this matters anymore. That's how Jesus walks through the last few days of his life to the cross. He's already dead. There's nothing they can do to him anymore. And the thing is that in Jesus' teaching, he tells us that we all have to die. We all have to take up our cross. We all have to die in this form, this iteration of ourselves, in order to find new life. We die now in order that we can be raised up by the glory of our Father in heaven. In fact, Paul talks about how baptism is a symbol of our journey into death with Jesus, to become dead like him in order that we may be raised in glory with him. Why would you put off dying any longer then? See, when you're dead, you're free. You're totally free. Nothing this world can touch you anymore. And then the new life comes, and you experience the glory of heaven, and you know love's way, So you got to die before heaven and the resurrection can be reborn in you. Why would you wait a day longer, a moment longer?